Okay, we're good now. Sorry. Holy shit, that sun came out bright. Yeah, first time out for 2026, it looks like. It's not looking too good, though. I really probably could have stayed home and not felt bad. Let's put it that way. And I don't say that often, because I really do believe that the only way to succeed in doing anything like this is to just kind of show up and see what happens. And it takes a lot for me to say that something's kind of a shithole, so tomorrow looks like shit. And I don't know if my opinion's going to change on that or not, but I'm 3 hours away from the target, so we're here, sort of. So there's a risk for severe storms tomorrow down here. I'm sure you figured that out. That's why we're down here in Mississippi. But most importantly, this is the first time that I've been south of Interstate 80 since probably November. Yeah, it's the first time that I've been south of Interstate 80 since November, and that is really saying something. We'll talk about that here in a minute, because it's very strange, especially this time of the year. It's been really quiet and really slow. I'm actually thankful for that. It sucks, because that means that we haven't been making any money. But it is good because it means that I've been able to get my shit together so that it's not a cluster this spring, you know. This has kind of worked out in our favor. Like, if all of a sudden, you know, the light switch flips and next week it gets busy and stays busy, we're okay. So yeah, today originally looked like it could be a severe weather day, maybe in like southern Illinois. Oh, I see they have a mesoscale discussion up there now. But I think it's trash. They downgraded, they stayed marginal risk, so. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's changed here over the past couple of, well, since October, new equipment and everything. And it's not really new equipment, it's reconfigured equipment. I've changed a lot. A lot of it I've been silent about because it's been testing. And today I'm actually trying some of it out. We're only on 2 connections right now, so we may have some dropouts. But one of the major things was getting rid of Starlink. Well, that's misleading. I got rid of the Starlink router. So the Starlink dish has a built-in Wi-Fi radio, so it's like it gives you its own Wi-Fi signal. And it sucks. I've determined that it's crap. I don't even think it's Wi-Fi 6. It sucks. I don't know if it only has like one path or whatever the hell one channel, or not one channel. What do they call them? The MIMO thing. Streams. I think it only has one stream, like continuous data stream. But it sucks. Yeah, the speed test is great, but I think it's overheating and causing all sorts of issues, especially being outside the vehicle. That dish gets hot. It sucks. I've had so many problems ever since I switched to the little Starlink dish about a year ago. The actual Starlink service, in my opinion, is no different than the full-size dish. Perfectly happy with the service. It's the data connectivity within the network. Yeah, I can do a speed test and hit 300 megabits down and 100 megabits up any day of the week, no problem, but that doesn't do me any good if I can't pass more than 3,000 or 4,000 kilobits of video between the devices through the router, because I use the Wi-Fi signal as our wireless video. So at any given time, with everything running, I might have 80 megabits per second of video signal continuously streaming through the local network, even if we're only pushing 5,000 or 6,000 out. It's because all the cameras are on, they're transmitting, they're on standby going into the switcher. So they're always passing that traffic, and that's 80 megabits of data is not a big deal. But it seems like that's just too much for that thing. Like it's got a lot of issues. So what I did was I ran a network cable up there and brought the network cable into the truck, and I put a somewhat higher end consumer router in here, and it's running off of 12 volts. I've just got a voltage regulator on it, so it doesn't see any voltage spikes, so it's set to about 13.0, which is a little high, but I think the power supply is 12.6, so I'll give it a few extra berries there, it'll be fine. But set to 13 volts, so it won't exceed that. Just a little DC to DC regulator to clean the power a little bit, remove any line noise. But guys, I'm not having any issues. I've been screwing around with this all day. I haven't had a single problem. So you can't use that Starlink thing for streaming, apparently. I mean, you can, but you're gonna have it seems to be the root cause of many problems, surprisingly. So glad that I figured that out. I've got a TP link in here. It's it's one of the same ones I got in the office. It's the same one that I have as a range extender. It's a BE6300, which isn't a super high-end one, but it's plenty fine for what we're doing. Technically, the correct application would be a cradle point router, like an actual vehicle Wi-Fi router. But there's no reason to spend $2,000 for a freaking Wi-Fi signal in the truck. It's not going to do anything that this doesn't do. So yeah, I haven't been having issues, because I think a lot of our issues with dropped frames and frozen camera scenes and the audio malfunctioning has been due to the wireless network, the LAN, the local side of it. So I set a goal that I wanted to have it patched up by 2026, and I think we're good. So I just need to. It's still just hanging by the cord there in the back seat. I need to build a little bracket that goes on the back of like the headrest mounts at the back seat there, and basically have a little plastic shelf that it sits on, and I'll Velcro it to it so that there's enough room behind the headrest that it'll fit between the headrest and the window. And I'm not worried about overheating back there because I have 20% factory window tint back there, and then I have 2 layers of 5%. It's like pitch black. Like I can barely see out my back window, let alone sun getting in it. So I literally have like as dark, like you might as well spray paint the window black. And it's like legitimate like solar window, like it's good window tint, like it's actually stopping the UV, like you're not getting heat through it, so it's not going to be a problem back there, and there's decent airflow, so that's going to be where it needs to go. I just need to make a little bracket. I didn't get to it just in case if for some reason this router didn't work out and I needed a different one, but this one's been working fine for testing, so I'll build that here and get that taken care of. But so a couple of other things that we should talk about too now that we're actually in 2026 and we've got Rise 26 beginning here in 3.5 months. Number one, first of all, thank you. You'll notice that the GoFundMe, the progress bar at the bottom, back up. We started that back in, I think it was October 22nd, I think. It was a day that I was in down by Wichita Falls, Texas. I know that. It was the end of October. It was like the week before Halloween. Second to last week. Started that with $0. The first day of live streaming, we got that thing up to like 500. And I'm like, all right, this is going pretty well. And we are about 2.5 months into this, almost 3 months, and we are at 11,000 something dollars. The good news and the bad news. The good news is we've gotten 11,000 something dollars, and I appreciate that. It has gotten us so far ahead of where we would have been otherwise. The bad news is it's all gone. We don't have any left, and I'll tell you why. The amount of research and development that's gone into this has been insane. And that's basically why. But this was all planned for. You know, we basically allocated the first $12,000 to $13,000 as the ground equipment, the setup, all that stuff. Now we need to purchase SANs. So we started making our first payment on the credit line for the SANs. So I sent the payment of $2,800 or $2,880 over to them recently. And I appreciate it because we had a massive $200 or $2,000 donation and a massive $500 donation come in the past week and a half on the GoFundMe, and that covered that. But one thing I got to remind you all, folks, I can't tell you how much I'm paying per sond, but I'll tell you it's between $200 and $300. Wink. Halfway between that. But basically, I can't give you an exact dollar amount because it may or may not be less than what the government is actually paying, and I don't want to get the I don't want to cause any issues with contracts, and because this is a small business, right? That we get these from. We don't want to screw them over where they can't give us a discount, a little bit of a discount, but they're expensive, and there's not a lot of money to be made in them. I've seen their manufacturing process, guys. They're not dicking me. They are not. There is just not a lot to mark up. They're probably making $50 a sond on these, and that ain't much. I mean, the components are just expensive. They're cheap, but they're expensive, especially in mass. They're just, they are expensive to build. We're not getting screwed. Somebody told me we were getting screwed. We're not getting screwed. We are not getting screwed. We are being worked with very well. These guys are actually even willing to do custom programming and shit of these things for us. Hell, they're willing to sell me a $10,000 ground station on a line of credit, which we don't need, but I mean, these guys are fantastic. What they've done is they said, okay, how many radio SANs do you need for 2026? And I said 150. And this girl, her name's Elena or Alana or whatever. She's like, okay, well, that's going to be a shit ton of money. We're going to call it between $27,000 and $30,000. Well, let's just say $28,000 for just a random kind of rough number. So it'll be $28,000. I was like, yeah, okay, well, let me see what I can do here. And I was like, all right, I don't know how to say this, but I don't have that. But if you give me a minute, I can probably scrounge it up with a GoFundMe. And I guess she went back to the CEO or something of the company, and they're like, okay, well, we'll just give you a line of credit. If you can make monthly payments on this, we're going to give you a little bit of a discount to take the edge off of that. And then if you can pay us on like a net 30 and we'll send an invoice every month, we'll ship you X amount of SANs every month here, and we'll send you, extras of them at the beginning here so you can get them stockpiled for the busy season. I'm like, well, that's fantastic. So you got to look at this, guys. I mean, they're doing us a favor. Like, they can't give us shit for free. They would be giving away $30,000 worth of shit for free. They can't do that. I wouldn't expect them to. Especially because I can't do much for them. It's not like I'm out here selling, promoting their SANs, because who's going to buy their SANs? You know what I mean? Scientists and meteorologists, sure, but they already know what to buy, So there's not a lot of influencing that I can do for them. But the fact that they're not saying we need $28,000 wired to us up front means they're a huge supporter of what we do, and we've kind of earned their respect. They've been very helpful through this, and I'm very thankful for our friends over at Intermet. Small business, by the way. But with that said, I owe them $4,000 now. We paid an invoice. That means we got to owe another one. I need to pay them $4,000 by the middle of February. I don't have it. So if you are interested in participating in our GoFundMe, every dollar does count for Rise 26. This is public weather data that's going to improve your forecasts and ours. We're going to be sharing this data. We're not taking this data and selling it. I make no damn money off this shit. Trust me, if I was, I wouldn't be sitting here begging for your 50 cents. But this is seriously a big thing. We've partnered with some meteorologists here. Hell, our internal staff doesn't even have the full briefing because so much stuff has happened today and yesterday. It's even, I got to get with them. But it sounds like we've actually, we might be picking up somebody that's actually writing a paper for their PhD here that wants to write around upper air soundings and how upper air soundings basically, it's going to be interesting. I don't want to spoil this. I'm not going to give any names here because I don't want to ruin this person's PhD thesis here or whatever. But this student, or grad student, whatever, he is trying to blend politics a little bit with science, and I think that's kind of cool. We'll get to that in a minute. But trying to study, and it's interesting because this is actually going on in real life right now, but it's with the Weather Service, but it's totally unrelated. And it's public knowledge, by the way. You got Urban Sky out there in Denver. I mean, they're basically advertising that it's happening. But this guy is trying to study what would happen if we had, I think, if we increased radio sound information, basically upper air soundings, if we increased it by, 5%, 10%, whatever, and actually trying to do a long-term model on using some AI on how the growth, if we start feeding even some of these AI models right now more radiosonde data, let's say we did 5 or 10% more radiosonde launches across the world right now, by feeding it into AI and better compute power, that might actually turn into in 5 years that could, without increasing the sound or the upper air soundings, it might turn out to be like a 20% increase or something like that. Doing a lot of studies around that. He's not advocating, calm down, Paul, I know you're out there, not advocating for justifying fewer upper air soundings, mainly advocating for having more upper air soundings, because this will actually, it's like right now is the time to do it because you get more bang for your buck. It's like potentially what this guy is hypothesizing with this model that he's making is, if you basically do one more radiosonde launch, it might be worth X amount of radiosonde launches in a few years. So, and obviously with spatial resolution of weather models, we're never going to get to perfect. So what would happen if we started increasing upper air soundings by 5% every year? Well, we could, have X amount more accurate forecasts of model data by, X, whatever, 20, 30, 24, whatever. And it's a really neat project, and I don't fully understand it. It was pitched to me, and this guy wants to be in the field and wants to get hands on this data. And I'm like, this gives us some notoriety and some credibility to have our sources cited and everything. So we're kind of, and I'm not getting any money for that, obviously. You don't charge for that. That's how science works, right? But I'll tell you a story about a crackerjack meteorologist in peer review in a minute. don't go anywhere. It's entertaining. But we're the little guys, and we're kind of footing the bill for some bigger guys to do a lot of work, and I'm proud of that, and I'm happy with that because I want to do this. But the thing is, we need help. You're not helping me and our team achieve our goals. Well, you are, but you're also helping better the world and helping get this data into researchers' hands, folks. You're going to be learning a lot more about this over the next few months. So Project Weather Eye, you can go to our wxeye.org and click on Rise 26. I'll play the video in a minute. It's pretty cool. So that's my advertisement there. Yeah, so with that said, what I was going to mention, well, I'm just justifying our begging for money here, basically. But I'm trying to limit our Radioson launches up until April because I'm trying to stockpile. I have a limited number of balloons and only a handful of SONs. Obviously, we got freaking Paul. Oh, there's Paul. Jesus Christ! I knew I'd get I knew he'd be in here. All you have to do is say something about a balloon, and Paul shows up. But anyway, that's a good thing, though. But obviously, most of our equipment is going to come in, between late February and late March. So I'm trying not to exhaust supplies here, just in case something happens and we need to start early or something. I'm trying to have a little bit of a buffer, and it's nice to have a buffer too, because we're going to have multiple launch vehicles. We're going to want this equipment spread over 3 vehicles, so we're going to have a surplus. But we've also got our data probes that we're working to bring in to get built and such. I'm not as worried about those. It's going to cost us about $5,000 to get those things up and running, but that's a smaller dollar amount here, if that makes sense. So compared to what else we're doing, but there's a lot going on, folks, and it's even if you hate me, if you like science, you can still donate to the GoFundMe. You can just put in the memo or something like "go fuck yourself" or something. I don't know. I'll probably get canceled for saying that too. So I'm a racist and a bigot today. If you haven't seen Twitter, this guy said politicians suck. All right, 30 seconds to talk politics. Right now, our government, and it has nothing to do with if you voted for Trump or if you voted for Kamala. I don't care who you voted for. The fact of the matter is, there's bad apples on both sides. They're trying to get rid of NCAR. NCAR does all of our modeling ingestion with upper air soundings. We need NCAR to be able to do basically anything with weather, not just research, but modeling. And this isn't just this administration. This crap's been going on for a while, but all of a sudden somebody got put in charge somewhere, and they're like, oh, fuck the weather, and they're trying to get rid of anybody who does anything with the weather, apparently. I don't know. But they're trying to axe the weather, like they're cutting the weather service off at the balls. Like every time the weather's, like they recently told the weather service, you got to launch fewer balloons. This is what, the weather service employees can't really comment on this or they'll lose their job. I don't work for the government, so I can say it. But it's true. They reduced upper air sounding sites, and for a while there, they chopped a bunch of them down to 1 a day. That's bad, guys. If you are, let me get eye to eye with you guys, and this is why this matters to you. Have you ever bitched about the weatherman being wrong? Have you ever been so pissed off because they said it was going to rain and it didn't, and you're a farmer and now you got dead corn crop? Or you're pissed because you're a farmer and you were going to go work the field and it was supposed to be dry and you got 6 inches of rain, it's a fucking mud pit. Or anything of the above, maybe your tennis game, I don't know. Then it does matter to you, because the weather models are what helps us predict this stuff. And you see how terrible in general we are. I mean, we're good at the weather, but we're also terrible at it. And we admit that. Now imagine how shitty we're going to be if we don't have modeling data. I'm just saying. So I'm not saying that we're going to change that with what we're doing, but it ain't going to hurt it. It's going to help it. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Maybe write some letters to your local politicians and be like, hey, shut up. And I think the problem is a lot of these politicians, they don't know the full story. I think it's ignorance. They get told by lobbyists and these people that just want to replace everything with AI. I think they get told by these people how much better it is, and they don't do their homework. And that's a big problem in this country right now, is ignorance. Oh yeah, I'm a bigot today because I said that politicians suck. So I got yelled at by a meteorologist because I made a comment that Kamala sucks and Trump sucks. And then I got called out and said Trump was my boy, and how dare I support him? And I said, well, how are you drawing that conclusion? And this dude was like, well, clearly you're a Trumper, MAGA, 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 and you support all this stuff because you said that Kamala was also bad. And I'm like, no. I said I hate them both. Seriously. Like, you know what? And Trump, if you're watching, dude, I still want you for a ride along. You know, you and freaking the girls from The View and Tim from Minnesota, you know, Tampon Tim or whatever your name is, or whatever, Tim Walnuts or whatever. I got to get you guys, like, I want you guys on a ride along. I think it would be fun. I have nothing against you guys personally. I'm sure you're all great to go to Waffle House with. Like, we can honestly have a good time. The invitation is still here. Just not the Clintons. I saw what they did to Epstein, but that was a joke. Calm down. Calm down. But anyway, I was told that it's not okay to say that both parties suck. It's only okay to say that one party sucks, and it has to be that a certain party. And I'm like, that's being hypocrite. That's being a hypocrite. That's basically saying that my party is right all the time and can do no wrong, and that's very dangerous in this world. And that's why I wanted to say that, is it's very dangerous, folks. Remember, there's three sides to everything. The idiots on the far left, the idiots on the far right, and then us normal people, the other 90th percentile, that are somewhere in the middle. Even if you're on one side or the other, that's fine. But us 90% of humans that aren't in politics and aren't lunatics, remember, folks, we have a voice too, and it's our job to call out people, whether it's our own party or not, and say, hey, that's a bad call. And right now, I don't care who you voted for, it is a bad call to start cutting the Weather Service and NOAA off at the balls because of all the government bureaucracy that there is. Yes, there are problems in the National Weather Service. I will tell you that right now. Yes, I'm going to get canceled by Candy Rain or whatever her name is, and Katie for that. I don't care. The Weather Service is not perfect. I don't think they admit to be perfect. But we have a new director for the past, I think he's 2 or 3 years in, Ken Graham, whatever his name is. The guy is not our enemy. Absolutely not our enemy. He is trying. Things have gotten better. Warnings are getting better. Forecasts are getting better. Procedures are getting better. Things are getting better. We have good people in charge of the Weather Service, in charge of NOAA, WPC, NCAR, all these, and like the NSSL and the National Weather Center and these like branches of NOAA. All this stuff ties together. We have good people in charge and good people that work there. You know, these are not the people they are not our enemy, okay? There's a lot of hypocrisy going on and bullshit going on in this country that could be picked on. These guys are not the enemy. Trust me. You know, even though I have no problem saying, you know what, this needs a tornado warning. Who the hell is asleep at the wheel? I have no problem saying that when it's due. But the amount of times that happens is very small. I think there's a big push to try to privatize the Weather Service and privatize weather data. And I'm telling you what, folks, if that ever happens, you're screwed. We're all screwed. I'm just saying. You shouldn't have to pay for your tornado warnings. We have the best weather network in the entire world. Look at Canada. Environment Canada is a joke. Look at Australia, the BOM. They're a joke. No offense to the men and women who work there. It's not your fault. These other weather agencies are jokes. They issue tornado warnings in Canada that span 500 freaking miles wide, and they say, hey, there might be a tornado in here and somewhere in the next 6 hours, and they'll have a tornado warning in effect for 6 hours. You think our tornado warnings suck? Look at that crap. You know, you can't plan on that. Oh, hey, go to the basement. There's a tornado somewhere within 500 miles of here in the next 6 hours. What does that tell you? You know, and I'm not picking on them. The men and women that work there, they do their best, but they can only do, you know, it's not them. It's not the noodles in the soup. It's the bowl that it's in, if that makes sense. That was a really bad, I don't know, whatever. It's not the kids that are in the bus. It's the bus. I don't know, whatever. You get the thing. But we have one of the best weather systems out here, and that's one of the reasons why I like this project, Because in my opinion, weather is not political. It is something that should not be fought upon when it comes to politics. But politics fight over it, so I get to make fun of it. And it's entertaining because it makes me say swear words and people like it when I cuss. So anyway, seriously, I get more views when I start cussing up a storm. I don't know why. Apparently it's funny, but I like what I'm doing because I think what we're doing, because it kind of shows, hey, what? I don't know who you are, but I'm not answering. Oh shit. Minneapolis, Minnesota. Oh God. Hello? Oh, fuck you too. Sorry. I thought maybe it was a rioter or something. But just remember, folks, like, what we're doing is kind of setting an example to a lot of these people that are like crapping on what the Weather Service does. Is like, hey, there's a bunch of deranged YouTubers out here doing this. Why the hell do they have to be out here doing this? Like, I mean, we want to be out here doing this. Don't get me wrong, but like, it kind of raises an eyebrow of like, we've got content creators out here launching weather balloons. Maybe that should be our hint that we should do a few more. Maybe we shouldn't defund the Weather Service. Just saying. No, it's not Tim Walz. I got a direct line to him too. He says to please stop showing up outside of his door and yelling handicap slurs at him. He's getting pissed. So be nice to him. He's old. He's just living his best life, guys. Just let him retire. But he hasn't called me today. I got a direct line to most of these people. Except California, they never accepted my Facebook friend request. So. But yeah, anyway, I got some balloons with. I plan on doing a sounding tomorrow. Otherwise, I mean, that's kind of why I'm here, because tomorrow looks like shit. So here's the thing: if we launch a sounding tomorrow and it says that the environment is crap, that means we can all go home and we don't have to bother. So it kind of works out. But. I built a new portable ground station that's got the antenna and everything built into a little Pelican case. I could show it to you here if we get a second to stop. I'll show it to you, but I built it. So the whole point of this is I thought, it's really hard to explain this while driving. I need to be in front of my whiteboard. If you guys give me I think on Saturday I can show you, I could be in front of the whiteboard to show you. But basically, here's the deal. We launch a balloon with a radiosonde. It's going to go up to, some of them are going to go to 40,000 feet. Some of them are going to go to 70, 80, 90,000 feet. It kind of depends on what we're looking for. That's a whole other topic for a different day. It depends on the environment, what we're looking for, etc. We have receivers built into the launch vehicles that will pick up that signal for hundreds of miles. But that takes that vehicle out of service for 2 hours to sit there and receive that signal. And then that uploads the data as it's happening to our sounding generator, our sounding engine in our servers. And then gives the information to you guys and anybody who needs it. Well, the problem is, like I said, it takes that vehicle out of service. They're basically sitting there. That's 2 hours we could be chasing or getting into position. So there's a couple of ways that we can mitigate this. We're going to mitigate that loss of time. We're going to keep the receivers on the launch vehicles, obviously. We're building out a ground-based network where we've got some of our volunteers and stuff that are going to be hosting some of our receivers, so that when one of our weather balloons, our radiosondes, goes floating by them at 50,000 feet, it's going to pick up their signal and push it into our server, which is great, because that means, let's say we launch a weather balloon. I'm just going to use places that we know that are easy. Let's say we launch a weather balloon in Lubbock, and we've got southerly winds and it carries the balloon north. I don't know why it would, but let's say that happens. Well, let's say when the balloon gets between Lubbock and Amarillo, we've got a ground station in Amarillo that chimes in and says, hey, I'm picking up this balloon, and it starts sending the telemetry to our server. Well, now whoever is in the vehicle that was picking it up since launch can say, oh, okay, my job is done. I'm going to go chase a storm now, or I'm going to go launch another one somewhere else. So that's fantastic. That also costs us money, which is why we have a GoFundMe. This is something we invented, folks. This doesn't exist. Yes, SondHub exists and stuff, but that's not the same thing, folks. It's just what we're doing is a little bit different. SondHub is for people that are like, it's like for hobbyist trackers and stuff. It's what we're doing is a little different. SondHub's a great tool for people that want to go find radio sondes and stuff, but like that's not what we're doing. So the other thing that we're going to do here is have mobile temporary launch stations or something. And one of the ways we're going to do that is by having like 6 of these battery-powered briefcase telemetry units that have an antenna built onto them. Obviously, they're not going to have the same amount of range that a vehicle-mounted antenna would, or a rooftop-mounted antenna would. But 50 or 60 miles out is still going to be reliable on these. Sometimes that weather balloon might go 20 miles downwind. Sometimes it might go 150 miles downwind. It just depends on if it gets into a strong jet streak or something. But with these battery-powered units, they've got cellular built in. All you have to do is push the button and turn it on, and it starts receiving. And it's got a display on it, tells you if it's got signal. So we have a lot of storm chasers out there that think what we do is cool. Let's say we've got an outbreak about to happen, and we want to get as many balloons up. Well, let's say we have a trustworthy storm chaser that we know, perhaps one from Australia or somewhere, that doesn't obviously have a weather balloon radio sonde telemetry receiver built into their vehicle, because that's not really a common thing. Well, we give them one of these small briefcase units, and they can literally set it in their passenger seat, and it will receive the signal. Let's say they're like, okay, well, I'm going to go up to Wichita, and we're like, okay, well, we're in Oklahoma City. Well, we want to launch here, and then we want to go south. Well, let's say the balloon is going north, and this person's going north. Hey, can you take this device, and whenever you get up there and you're parked, can you just leave it on? So it keeps picking up the balloon so we don't have to stay here parked. Things like that. And then these people can just give them back to us when they can, because people have offered to do it. Check them in, check them out kind of thing. So that gives us a portable fleet. And it's also good because it's backup equipment. It's not, like if somebody has to get in a rental car or whatever. So that's kind of what we're building out. So I want to test that down here. I tested it back home, but I want to test it on an actual flight. We're inventing a lot of things that don't exist with this. And that's where I'm actually really proud of this, because there's a lot of open source stuff that's been developed for like radio sonde receiving, the telemetry and everything. But there's nothing that really exists that does what we need it to do to get the data through live. I could sit in one spot and receive it with one receiver and then download the data, put it into a sounding viewer, screenshot it and upload it. But that would mean it would take 2 to 3 hours from the time we launch it to get that information. We are getting that information within literally sub 2 seconds. We are getting that information off of the balloon and into our server and on your device in 1.8 seconds. The charts and the sounding stuff, it fills in as it's coming in. It's really cool. Doesn't exist. That's why I can't buy a commercial. Even if I had $10,000 and I wanted to buy, like Intermet, they sell, I think it's like $6,500. They've got a very, very, very nice ground station. Very nice. But it doesn't do what I need it to do. It does what everybody else would need it to do, but it doesn't do what I need it to do, because nobody else is doing what I'm doing. Nobody else has ever really had the reason to, I don't think. But I don't know. I'm surprised it hasn't been done already, to be honest with you. But because data is great. It's good to have archive data for research, but that doesn't help us anything in the now, because we might be able to say, hey, we've got way more instability than we were supposed to have. We might end up with a severe weather outbreak, or we might be able to say, hey, the cap or the lid on the atmosphere, the temperature inversion, is way too strong. We're probably not going to see any storms. And then we share that information. And now maybe instead of an, oh my God, it's going to be a tornado outbreak, now everybody can calm down and be like, okay, probably not. And we'll be able to detect hail parameters. All sorts of stuff, so. Automated license plate blurring system. Yeah, no. Yeah. Finally got rid of that other guy, I tell you. So what we're doing is really cool. How much are these receiving units? About $500. I'm not selling them. Like we're providing it. I'm not going to charge like a consumer to help us. Like it's costs that I have to foot. But we're trying to get a large, expansive network. I've got like 5 sites that we want to start with, and then fill more of them in next year or at the end of the year. But I want to start with like 5 just to get a couple out there, just for beta testing. But it's expensive, but it's in the realm of things that are doable with crowdfunding, if that makes sense. Oh, we're getting a radio signal from way far. I mean, yeah, we're getting yeah, guys, I mean, I can send a weather balloon to 120,000, well, 110,000 feet if we want to. I mean, weather service goes anywhere between 100 and 110. At least all the ones around me are averaging about 100, 105,000. I mean, we're averaging on our 200, the 200 gram balloon is like the perfect size for us. It's not wasteful in terms of helium, but it's enough to get us pretty much reliably to 70,000 feet, which is way over equilibrium level. So I mean, yeah, we're way the hell up there, guys. Way up there. There's certain times where we need to go higher than others. For example, our first sounding of a lot of days we'll probably do 2 soundings. Like the first sounding of the day, we're going to want to probably go as high as possible. 80,000 feet, 70, 80,000 feet. Those 200 gram balloons that we get from KMOD, honestly, guys, the specification, I think the burst altitude, I think is 68,000, but that's conservative. We're running a pretty lightweight sonde. Our sonde only weighs 120 grams. I think the GRAW sondes that the Weather Service uses, I think those are closer to 300 grams. I could be wrong. And even the Vaisala, the RS-41, that's heavier. Their battery packs are very heavy. But they use a bigger balloon, obviously. But with a lighter sonde, that means that we can use a smaller balloon, which is good. It makes things cheaper in terms of gas. It's not the balloon that's expensive, it's the gas that goes in it. But I think the burst altitude is like 68,000 or something like that on those. But it's conservative. I mean, with our lightweight sonde, guys, we're going to minimum 70,000 with no problems. We had that one go to what, 81 or 82,000 feet. So, I mean, you can't shake a stick at that, guys. I mean, that's fantastic for that, which is good because it means we don't have to run a bigger one. We could go up to a 300 or a 350 balloon, which we probably will at times. We'll probably stock like 20 of those, honestly. But maybe 20 of those over the course of April, May, June, like if we really want to go crazy and go all the way up. But those upper level winds and stuff are going to be very important in the morning because those change. But they're not as important to tornadoes and supercells as the lower level winds are, lower and mid level winds. And I should still say upper, because when you're up at 200 millibars, it's still definitely the upper levels, but over 30, 40, well, over 35,000 feet. But what's very important is the surface up to like 30,000 feet. So we're trying to get a big snapshot of the entire atmospheric profile in the morning, and then later on, let's say it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, storms have just started to form, and we want to kind of verify the environment they're in, see what the hodograph looks like, see if they're tornado producers, things like that. We can launch a balloon, but we don't need to go up to 80,000 feet because I really don't give a crap what's going on up above the equilibrium level, which is probably at 60 or 65 tops. So we're just going to go to 40,000 feet. Use a smaller balloon. Smaller balloon's going to pop earlier. Use a 100 gram balloon. Intermet swears up and down that we should be able to get 40 to 45,000 out of a 100-gram balloon with this radiosonde. Like, they said that they've done it, and it's pretty consistent. Like, okay. So let's just say we go to 40,000 feet. That's plenty for the tornadic and the hail-producing part of the storm and to get a better profile in the atmosphere. So, and it's less wasteful, so it'll save us like $30 worth of helium per day by doing it that way, by only launching what we need to launch. You know, like when we don't need that entire profile all the way up to 50 millibars, go up to about 200 millibars. We don't need to go all the way up to 50. I mean, we do earlier in the day, but we don't need to do that when there's already a storm, if that makes sense. Yeah, 4,000 gram balloon. Yeah, we need to get the biggest balloon you got, Paul, and see if we can, like, fly a cat and parachute the cat down. Or no, that would be terrible. I'm just kidding, people. Like, don't cancel me. I think I saw that the payload on some of those is like 20 pounds. Like, what are we gonna, like, what would you possibly want to launch? It's 20 pounds. Chinese spy balloon. Yeah, tomorrow does look kind of awful, I agree. But it's hard to tell down here. You know, sometimes it looks like crap. It ends up being just nuts. It's times the other way around. Somebody asking about the data. So I don't have an exact value, but I will tell you that we're sending, oh boy, how many bits of data? I have an answer for you. Hold on. It's more than you would think, even though it's just text values. Hold on, I have an answer. That's actually a good question. Because, yeah, we have to pay data on these too. Like, it ain't cheap. As far as I know, we are the only operation out here that's actually doing this. That's not getting, like, a bunch of corporate money or something from, like, NASCAR sponsorships or whatever. I don't know who's calling me. I'm not answering it. I have that answer on the data here in a second. Stand by. The answer is, it's spinning. 6 megabytes per flight. Roughly 6 megabytes of data per flight, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is, because we're using IoT SIM cards and we're paying by megabyte. Because I can't afford to run, like, even if we put prepaid SIM cards in these, that's what, $10 a month for a 1 gig data plan or something? You start timesing that by 6, well, that's $60 a month for your portable receivers, and then times like 3 or 4 for your mobile receivers. Now you're up to 100. Let's say you've got 20 of these ground stations out there. Now you're up to 3, 4, 5, 600 by the time you start adding more. Like, it adds up very fast, so we have to do it by or by megabyte. It's cheaper. But there's ways we can possibly reduce that a little bit. One way I reduced it was by packaging the data a little bit different, removing spaces, because every character is obviously bits of data. So it's a single line JSON format, basically. No spaces, no indents, no unnecessary quotes, nothing like that. It's basically just a line like T, T 39, or, let's say it's 5 degrees Celsius with a, I don't know, what, for example, if it, it'll say T 5.102, D 4.001, or H 69.3, P 978.1. Where temperature, dew point, humidity, pressure, and then for wind speed, it's D for degrees. It's D, and then like 330.1, which would be winds 330.1 degrees, and then it expects one character after the decimal, so there's no space, and then it's another 3 digits, so 1, 2, point, and then 3, but it will go, if we get over 100 miles an hour, it knows to go 1 extra digit, and then it'll be wind speed. So we remove basically as much as we can, so it's just very clear what it is, with just single letters in there to break it, just to make sure that the API that's receiving it doesn't garble something and mix characters around if something is incomplete or null. There's a lot of work that went into this, guys. Like, it was hard to build this when it didn't exist, because like there's some software out there called like Radiosonde RX or something, stuff that is run a lot. I think it's the SondeHub people that came up with it, and it works fine. It doesn't freaking work with our internet sondes. I'm just like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, it doesn't work with GRAW either, which is kind of an issue, because that's what Weather Service likes to use, is GRAW and Vaisala, but it doesn't calculate wind speed or anything with internet, so I had to go back to the drawing board and kind of write our own script to decode, because the telemetry type that the Radiosonde sends out it's called Bell 202, which is, it's not open source, but everybody knows what it is. Like, it's not, it's a mode. It's just a communication mode. It's called Bell 202, and it's just it's a common telemetry for stuff like this. So we had to basically have an SDR that decodes Bell 202, and like, it'll look at the way that we determine wind speed is the GPS on the sonde, because that sonde is attached to a balloon and it's floating around in the air. So it's pretty safe to assume that if the balloon is traveling 15 miles per hour to the east, that means that the wind speed is 15 miles per hour out of the west, right? So, I mean, that's a pretty safe bet. Obviously, you have drag and air resistance. Okay, fine, but what's that going to be, like 0.00001 mile per hour? Like, don't care. Next. That's well within our spec of tolerance, and we actually do it in meters per second because it's a higher resolution number. And then we convert that to knots or miles per hour or kilometers per hour, whatever we want to look at. Hell, we go to millimeters per hour if somebody wanted to, but we do meters per second, which is standard because it's just a higher resolution unit. But the way that we determine the direction and the wind speed is we look at the delta between between 2 GPS points, specifically actually 4 of them. So the way the software works is it looks at it says, okay, 2 seconds ago the Radiosonde was at this GPS location, now it is here. What is the degrees, like compass degrees difference? And then what is the speed? So that's your vector, and a vector is just a speed and a direction. So it will say, okay, it's moved, let's say that it moved 25 meters. I'm sorry, let's say that it moved 50 meters in 2 seconds, and we go 2 second intervals because 1 second I found to be too noisy, and going anything over 2 seconds is too low of resolution. I found a lot of error. The way that I was able to do that was to run 2 receivers on the same flight, running one at, two every 2 seconds and one at every 4, every 6, etc. But every 2 seconds seems to be the most clean, pure data. But we look at the delta or the vector between the differences there. That's the delta. The delta is just the difference between the points. And that gives us wind speed. So if we got 50 if it moved 50 meters in 2 seconds, well, 50 divided by 2, okay, that's 25, right? So you've got 25 meters per second. Now, this introduces a lot of noise, and this is where I submitted our sounding engine for peer review and got shit on by a meteorologist who is a crackerjack doorknob and a half, because he told me that the parcel line on a surface-based CAPE sounding, when you lift the surface-based parcel, can't possibly be colder than the temperature. Yeah, dude, it can be. It's called convective inhibition. SIN. It's literally one of the most fundamental concepts of meteorology. Dumbass. But anyway, something that some of the Twitter wannabes, because I shared that tidbit they started calling me out on, was their questioning, because I'm not using Sharpie or Sharpie, and I'm not using MetPy, and I'm not using Sounder P or whatever it is, or BuffKit. I'm not using any of these pre-built sounding engines because I'm just not familiar enough with them to work with them. It's not that there's anything wrong with them. They just don't do live values in the way that I need to. So I had to make my own one of those too. So at first I forked Sharpie, and that didn't work. And then I forked MetPy, and I got close, but I'm like, well, let's just use the MetPy equations, very similar, and then just tweak them to work with our stuff. So I did. So that's where we're getting our shear and all these parameters and such. But what I'm getting at is running the wind speed by GPS. It's very, very noisy and very, very chaotic right at launch. That first, let's say, 500 feet of launch, which is like, let's just say which is about the height of an average radio tower, not cell phone tower, like a radio tower, about 500 feet on average, 500 feet. That first 500 feet, the sonde is swinging back and forth under the balloon like a pendulum, especially if it's a calm day, because when that thing takes off, there's a lot of load on that thing that's uneven, and it yanks the sonde. It comes out of your hand or off the table, whatever, and it has a tendency to swing back and forth. It stabilizes eventually, and it kind of moves as one unit as it gets into wind, right? But it is moving back and forth, and that thing, you can visually see it. When you're on the ground, you can see it. These things are really swinging back and forth. That will actually, that dirties up the wind speed data very badly. So you have to clean the data. Otherwise, you're going to get crazy amounts of either corrupt data leading to bad numbers, or data that actually makes sense and looks reasonable, but it's your only way of, like, that's your only unit of measurement is this radio sonde. You had nothing to check it against, and now you've got just atrocious values, but they look legit, but they're not. There's a problem. So we have to clean that data. So the reason we look at the 4 points is the API does this. It looks at every 2 seconds, it looks at every 2 sets of wind speeds. And if something is bad wrong, let's say if it detected, like, let's say it says, hey, the wind is 25 meters per second, but then all of a sudden on the next data point, it says it's 105, and then the one after that, it's back down to like 26. The API says, okay, well, 25 and 26 are close to each other. 125 or something, that makes no sense. We're throwing that data out. That data is null. So it nullifies the data for that point. So it cleans the data. So, and it does that more at the lower levels because it's known to be dirty at launch. A lot of observed radio soundings omit the first, I think it's 100 meters, typically 100 meters of wind speed, because of ground effect and air deflection off of bodies and vehicles and whatever. And I agree with doing that, but I also disagree with doing that because we are doing high resolution soundings. So we just have to clean and then nitpick the data. This is something that MetPy, I believe it's MetPy, sounding generator, open source, does pretty well. and it's open source. So I did take a lot of tidbits from that and kind of cleaned it up, and it works out pretty well. It's very because there's a lot that goes on. For example, you turn that radio sonde on and it's sending surface data. Like as I'm walking over to where I'm going to launch it, it's measuring the temperature and the dew point, and that's getting sent back to the receiver and going into the sounding. We can't have that because my hand is warmer than the environment. I guarantee you it's going to be warmer, and that's going to cause big problems. That's going to cause elevated CAPE values because our surface-based parcel is going to be lifted from a higher temperature, even if it's 1/2 of a degree Celsius. If it says that it's 70.5 degrees out Fahrenheit and it's really 70, that's an extra 1/2 degree Fahrenheit of, for lack of a better term, lift potential here that you have. And then when it gets 10 meters above the ground and it's colder, it says, whoa, look at that, instability. That's bad. So what we actually do is we clean it for temperature data and all that crap too. So it's going up, and what it does is our system detects, hey, this is where launch was. Get rid of everything before it. It doesn't go into the sounding. It doesn't go into the calculations for parameters. So what it does is it goes, once that thing gets in the air and it's ascending, it's rising, it looks back at the data very quickly. This happens in the first 10 seconds, and it only takes a millisecond for it to do it. It goes back and it says, okay, where is the first point that this thing started rising? And then it says, okay, it's right here. And then it goes back 1 point before that. 1 point, which is 1 second. It goes back 1 second before that and says, okay, this is the surface observation because this is when it left their hand. We are at 1 second resolution. So that's probably that first surface ob is about 1 to 2 seconds after it left my hand. And that's plenty fine. These things are very high resolution. 1 to 2 seconds later, this thing's 10 feet in the air. We really are throwing out the first 10 feet or 3 meters, which is fine. But it is perfectly acceptable in our case, because these are observed soundings in high resolution, to capture that lower level wind data. But as research people, scientists, whatever on the ground, it's our job, if there is something, an abnormality, for example, you're in a forest launching, I don't know why you would be, and it's calm because there's no wind because of the trees. It's our job to communicate that when the sounding starts coming. We have to say, hey, special attention. We have no surface wind data because there's 100-foot trees. The hodograph and the parameters like shear, SRH, helicity, basically the stuff for tornadoes and updraft strength, right, or updraft spin, we have to communicate that and say, hey, we have no accurate low-level data under the trees here, and the trees are like 100 foot tall. Understand that this this hodograph may or may not be perfect. That's not going to skew everything that bad. That first 100, 200 feet is not that big of a deal. But that's the difference between, I like to call them appliance operators, somebody who just operates an appliance and doesn't understand what they're doing, and somebody who's actually like a technician and knows what they're doing. Like, you are never going to get a perfect observed sounding. It's not possible. But what you can do is make it close to perfect by communicating what the problems with it might be. That's why when we do these, and the sounding gets posted, we're going to say, hey, clean launch, or hey, we had these problems at launch, or special attention, it looks like we didn't have enough gas in the balloon and it ascended very slowly. Just special attention here. The data's good, but we're not super confident in this. We may have some dirty data here. Because as that balloon is going up, remember that balloon is pushing the air out around it, and it technically creates a little area of high pressure at the top of the balloon, because the balloon is displacing the air. It's like putting a basketball in the bathtub. The water's going to come up just a little bit. And then it creates low pressure at the bottom of the balloon where there's that void of air. So that air wants to come around, and it technically could cause some dirty data. That's why we have a long string. The sonde is anywhere between 50 and 100 feet below the balloon. And honestly, a lot of how long of a string that is our discretion. If we're in tall grass and tall weeds, it's closer to 50 foot. I try not to go any shorter than 50. But if we are on pavement or gravel or short grass, it's going to be 100 foot. Because, the string, it's hard to move all that string. You have to drag it across the ground. There's just no other way to do it. Even if you wad it up, it just knots up. You just have to drag it. And when you've got tall grass, it just gets caught up. But, so that's why you want to hang it a ways down. But if there's a lot that goes on it. Like, that's what I'm saying. There's no way to get a perfect. There's no way to get like an actual perfect observed sounding. But you can get very, very close. We're lucky to have the equipment that we do. Guys, I almost had to go to a French company to get radio sondes, and it was going to be a bitch. I'm glad I didn't. Medio Modem, they're in France. They have a good product, but I've actually, there's a couple of, I think the University of Wisconsin is doing it. There's a couple of meteorology programs that are running Medio Modems, and they work good. They're good sondes, but I've noticed a lot of issues. But it seems like there's a lot of the sensors get sporadic at cold temperature. A lot of them, and looking at data archives of them, it looks like they're very erratic below like 70 degrees Celsius, which is a problem because some of our sondes go up there as negative 90 degrees Celsius. And all that data goes back into your sounding. And if you have inaccurate data anywhere in the profile, it's going to cause your parameters like CAPE, SYN, lapse rates, all that crap that a lot of people don't care about, but science people care about. All of that stuff is going to be off. And it's never going to be perfect, but we have to, the way to make it as close to perfect as possible is to reduce the potential errors that we have in it, if that makes sense. But we have a really good group of people that's going to be helping us this year. I'm very, very happy. We have a very good team internally, like the See the Storm .net team, obviously. Project Weather Eye folks, Zach, Aiden, Keenan, Evan, David, Tyler. There's a lot of people, guys. Don, the Radar Omega folks. Remember, folks, it's not just me out. I mean, yes, I'm going to be fully transparent with you guys. Yes, we do receive sponsorship money from some entities. No, I am not sponsored by Coke or Pepsi, and no, I am not receiving $100,000 a month. Well, let's be real here. Radar Omega and SDS Weather did not build this system. They're building, they're building the system to get this into Radar Omega. That's where I draw the line. I developed our system, made our system work, and made our data in a presentable way so that Radar Omega, SDS Weather, Cycrad, whatever, can ingest that data. Then it's their part to go and ingest the data and display it how they want to do it. And Don's working on that. And that's really cool because we have a major software company, in fact, the leading, and this is fact, this is not fiction, this is fact. RadarScope and Radar Omega are the top, most popular used prosumer market weather apps for mobile. RadarScope and Radar Omega, that is true. This is not I'm trying to compete with Ryan Hall bullshit. It is a fact. All right, it is a fact. But it's cool because what we have is we have a company that supports our data so much that they're going to bring it into the app, so that not only do we have an additional place to share it, you guys as app users and software users, now you guys have a way to view it right on top of your radar with our live streams and all that too. So remember, folks, we have to support the people that are supporting us as well. So download Radar Omega. But you could also, folks, visit scientificsales.com and use code WeatherEye. I'm not paid to say that. I am not paid to say that. For a spiff on your order. If you want to buy things like a Kestrel, a lightning detector, a Davis Instruments weather station. Accurate sucks. Sorry, I'm a little spiteful against somebody right now, but something like that. That's where you can go do it. You can support the folks that support us by making tools and knowledge easily accessible for us. So that's kind of our sponsor message. Even though they are not, I'm not paid to say any of this. I'm not. I got turned into YouTube because somebody was salty saying that I'm not disclosing that these are paid sponsored streams. These streams aren't sponsored by anybody. Nobody, I'm serious, guys. Nobody gives me a dime to live stream. I don't get a single penny but from anybody to live stream. Our group is sponsored to build a weather data system like we're doing. Our group receives big discounts from companies so we can afford the equipment. Nobody says, I'm going to pay you money to live stream. I'm going to pay you money to say this about us. Not a single person does that. Not a single company. So just keep that in mind. That's my legal disclaimer. Yep, Scientific Sales and SDS Weather are, they're both small businesses, really. Which is cool. I mean, we've got some of the leaders in the weather industry that are holding hands with us here. And they're small businesses. I'm not saying these guys have, one employee and a janitor by any means, but these are small businesses on the grand scheme of things. Like, it's kind of cool. It's like an alliance here of small businesses that are in it for the day, for the science, so to speak. Because one of the things I like to talk about is integrity of science and data and the craft of what we do. And it's cool to see companies that are, yes, they're making money, they're businesses, they have to. That's why they exist. But it's cool to see other businesses that are small like us that aren't, I feel like, let's put it this way, that aren't milking their target market just to milk them. See a lot of companies, sugarcoating things and over marketing, and it's really cringy. And it's almost like they're milking people. So the ones we work with, they don't do that. It's like, they're here, they want to do things the right way. Which I think is cool. Something about gifted channel memberships. I don't know how any of it works. I'm on the wrong end of the chat for that. I might stop up here. We've been streaming we've probably been going about an hour now, haven't we? But yeah, guys, I haven't been down here this way for a long time. I have the air conditioner on right now. It is nice out. I love this. I think I'm stopping up here for dinner. I might cut the show. I didn't realize we were almost to Jackson already. Wow, okay. Whoops. I thought I was coming up on Batesville, but duh, that was 2 hours ago, idiot. Damn. No, I'm not staying in Jackson. I'm not that stupid. Telling you that for sure. Yeah, the GoFundMe goal has gone up exponentially over the past couple of months. I mean, we've got a long ways to go. We really do, but trust me, it's very encouraging. So thank you guys. I can't thank you enough. I never thought I would be trying to raise money for a science project, but here we are. Which is kind of cool. Yeah, if you want to learn more, I'm going to play the video for it. Don't go anywhere. It's kind of a cool video. It is a 60-second long video, and then we're going to come right back. So it explains what we're doing a little bit. So just, that's it. I promise. Only 60 seconds. It is not an ad. Here it comes. Hold on, I gotta find the button.
Before a tornado appears beneath a spinning storm. Before the first bolt of lightning strikes the plains. Before the first updraft rises and reshapes the sky. The atmosphere whispers. A turn of the wind, a breath of moisture, a boundary tightening miles away. Moments so small, yet powerful enough to decide what a storm becomes. But these moments unfold in places we rarely reach, changing faster than our tools have ever measured. RISE 26, high-resolution intelligence into storm environments. A mission powered by passion and made possible by you.
All right, I'm back. So there we go. Yeah, I'm coming up to, well, the town north of Jackson. I'm not going to Jackson, but I'm going to stop up here first. Yeah, I'm about done with this stream. I don't know how long have we been live. Does anybody know? I don't have a timer. I think I can. No, I don't. It doesn't even show me. That's dumb. I don't even know how long we've been live. It's probably close to an hour. When did I start? Was it Batesville? I don't even know. Hour and 15. Something like that. We'll pull into the Loves up here. I forgot there was a Loves up here. God dang, last time I was in Canton up here, it was like flooding. We had this like training line of thunderstorms and like everything was just flooding. Oh, it was a freaking mess.
At the next light, turn left.
I left at 5 o'clock this morning. Great question. Yeah, I left at 5 o'clock. Way earlier than I needed to, but I have to be in position early tomorrow because we need to be like 5 hours ahead of the severe weather tomorrow because we want to get a good sounding in and get some information. I didn't plan on streaming today. I just kind of wanted to...
At the light, turn left onto Mississippi 22 West, West Peace Street.
Oh, shut up, Google. I just kind of wanted to do something because it's been so damn quiet. Like, Even winter weather has been a dud lately. Like, this is, I'm dead serious, guys. This is the crappiest. This guy's freaking honking at me. Dude, I got a red light. What do you want me to do? Those aren't my lights. It's the cross traffic. What do you want me to do? The freaking red light. Jesus. Whole string of cars coming. God bless America. Now I can turn right on red. Dummy. Christ. But, oh wow, that's pretty. Look at that.
In a quarter mile, make a U-turn.
But I know I've been saying this, but this is by far, in my 11 years of storm chasing. Wow, a pot store attached to a gas station. Wow, that's
Head northwest, then left.
it's a great way to
Toward West Peace Street.
encourage
Then
people to
immediately
drive
turn
high.
left toward
Great.
West Peace Street. Turn left toward
Oh,
West
this
Peace
chick's got her
Street.
freaking car
Then
alarm
you'll
going
take your
off.
first left onto West Peace Street.
Anyway.
At the stop sign, turn left onto West Peace Street.
But yeah, so what I was saying was in 11 years, this is as quiet as I've ever seen it. I'm dead serious. 2 years, 2023, it was very, very quiet from the first week of October, no, the last week of September, all the way to Thanksgiving. It was miserably quiet, except for one snowstorm in North Dakota. That was it. But it got busy with severe weather right after that. This is weird because usually if it's kind of dead for severe weather, we usually compensate with it for it, with a bunch of snow. There's been some snow events, don't get me wrong, but not like what we're used to. It's very it's been kind of an off year. But this isn't typical. There's usually a lot more to do. This is the first storm chase that I've been on since November. I'm gonna look. Hold on, I can tell you guys. I have all my history in Google Maps. Let's see. I'll even show you for proof. Should be timeline. I think it was November 18th. It was that day that we were in Houston. It was the biggest waste of time. It was just, why are we here? And it's froze. Of course it is. It's froze. I'm trying to, I'll reset it. Oh, Google Maps is letting me down. Stupid. I can show you that. Oh, there, now it's working. $2025. Hard to believe that was last year. I think it was November 18th. And it just booted me back to this year. You piece of junk. November 24th. It was November 24th was that garbage in Houston. Yeah, that's my first time out in over a month for severe weather. So anyway, this is what I was telling you guys about. These are it's here. This thing off. These are our, I'm not going to re-explain them, but this is what I built. This is what I was talking about earlier about the portable battery-powered ground stations. It's got this LCD screen. Right now it says LTE bad, retrying. That's because the modem, I have to put data on it. I just haven't activated the SIM card. I'll do that tonight. But it's got, I know you can't see very well here, but it's got a USB-C so you can charge. It's made out of like one of these little Apache cases. Never have to open it. You just plug in here and it'll charge. And power switch and the LCD. So what it'll do here, as soon as this detects a sound, it'll put the sound ID up here, and then it'll put temperature, altitude, and then it'll flash the latitude, longitude as well for whatever reason, and then it'll tell you it's uploading. So this tells you if it's got a connection or not. So like if you're going to rely on this for a balloon launch, there's no guessing. It either says it has a connection or it doesn't. If it doesn't, you know, you better find a connection. But so this is it, and then you can actually open it up and bend this antenna and stick it in there. But it's just a little BNC connector with an antenna on it, and then you sit it like that, and that's all you need to receive a sounding off of one of these balloons, and easily get dozens, tens, if not 100 miles off of that thing, as long as it's not obstructed. So again, none of this stuff existed. I'm not really interested in sharing it either. I've had a lot of people email me asking how to build that stuff, and you know, I'm not against helping people come up with stuff like this, but I want to see people try a little bit on their own before I invest my knowledge in them. You can call that arrogant. I call it smart because I've been burned so bad. It would be real easy for someone else to come out here and do this the same way we're doing it, which would actually be in the best interest for science. But I feel like somebody could easily come out here. Well, not really. It's very, very difficult. But somebody could potentially like clone, well, try to clone, probably not be, yeah, probably not. Yeah, I don't think anybody could figure this out. But like if somebody did, I think somebody might do it to try to just monetize it and just cut off all funding for us and like reap benefits and not do it the right way and turn it into like a monetized, commercialized thing, and we don't want that. So it's not that I'm not interested in helping hobbyists that want to build something like that. It's that I kind of want to invest my knowledge in people that are putting in an effort, not just somebody who calls me up and says, hey, I need to build that. Okay, well, that's not my problem. Like, I know that sounds rude, but that's really what it comes to. Because I've had people that are like, I need a parts list. It's like, no, you don't. If you want, like, why? Because it's one of those things where it's like, that's not just consumer products. Like the U-Blox GPS chip that's in that, because it also pulls its location, so it'll tell you the distance but from the receiver to the device or the balloon. The U-Blox GPS chip in that was the biggest pain in the ass I've ever communicated data with. We're just using a Linux single board computer. You could use a Raspberry Pi, I'm sure, but I'm finding it's way cheaper to just use like a generic single board computer because it takes like no processing power. But it's custom software, or the software that is on there only works with our API. That thing is useless to anybody but us, basically. But there's a lot that went into that. A lot of my money and a lot of my time went into these, and it's the same technology that we're running in the truck, in the launch vehicles. It's just miniaturized and put on a battery and put in a box, and that battery will last about 12 hours when it's on, so plenty of time. Well, that's just it. I don't want somebody selling that either. I can't patent it. You really can't patent something like this because, I mean, you really can't. Anybody can make software that decodes Bell 202 and sends it to a server. Like I can't really own the rights to any of that. I don't think I really care to either, because I'm not saying we can't make this an open source thing. I'm just saying that if we make it an open source thing, I'm going to be the one to make it an open source thing, and we're going to actually put up a GitHub repository with our software, and then people can fork it and come up with their own thing, but with like the MIT software license or whatever, where basically if somebody takes this way somebody can't commercialize it. You basically license the software with like the MIT rules or whatever it is. Basically, what happens is they can take the code and make their own version, but they are required to post that code back to GitHub so that other people can use it too. So it basically cuts out anybody making this into a commercial product without, it's good. It basically makes it for the science, not for the money. So we would do it the right way, and we will. We're gonna, if you guys, like, if there's anybody out there that wants to participate as a ground-based station for us, obviously, like, I will send you, like, we will get you the equipment, like, we will bring you the equipment. But if you're one of the people that likes to build stuff and you would rather put the equipment together, I have no problem with helping somebody put something together. I'm just talking about people that, like, are looking at this and they think they could come up with some sort of storm chasing device or something. I'm not trying to own this concept. I'm just trying to make sure that we didn't just do a bunch of development work for a larger company with more money to come in and wipe us out and cut off all of our ability to do this so they can sell a product. I don't know why anybody would, but what if somebody says, you know what, hey, I was going to make a radiosonde company and sell radiosondes, but I couldn't figure out how to make a receiver. Now I know how to make a receiver. Very unlikely, but what if it is? I'm not doing the work for them. I'm not their employee, basically. So if that were to happen, not that I'm expecting it to, it'd be very unlikely, but I'm just saying if something like that were to happen, I don't want to be the guy that just did a bunch of free work for someone. That would be bad. That's what I like about GitHub is you can put stuff on there for your own terms and then people can fork it, which means they basically take your code and they change things, build upon it, whatever, and then they push it back into GitHub, and then other people can look at it, comment on it, review it, whatever, and it's almost like having a big collaborative effort. It basically turns it into somebody wanting to monetize it versus somebody wanting to make it better. Like it's a community, it's a way to make it a community project so that something better can come out and nobody's basically reaping benefits off of it by starting a company and mass producing it. Because if that happened, you could easily look at the code and be like, you just got this off of our GitHub, you violated the terms of service, and you violated the software license. You're getting sued, and we're going to own you, basically. And that happens in real life. One of you knows who I'm talking to. But anyway. Foreshadowing. But anyway, that's why you don't steal intellectual property. Not nice. Very bad. Because people do build similar things for like SoundHub to receive sondes. They use this software called Radiosonde RX or whatever, and it works fine. It's built overseas, so it, like the GRAW radiosondes that the Weather Service uses, they don't work very well with it, and the Intermet doesn't work very well. The RS-41 Visalas, they work great, but the problem is about 50% of the country is flying the GRAW sondes, about 50% are flying the Visala. I don't know why that is. I have no idea why it's not standard. I don't know if it's just a cost or what their availability, I don't know. Some offices fly the GRAW, the DFM sondes. Some of them fly the Visala, the RS-41 sondes. I don't know, whatever. But they just don't work good with the GRAW code. And the reason is because they do this, GRAW does this goofy thing with temperature that I don't know why it hasn't been built into the AutoRx software, because the temperature is offset by 10. So if it says 60, it's actually 70. If it says 0, it's actually 10. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's a decimal issue or a conversion issue or what, but a lot of that hasn't been built in, and there's no wind, there's no hodograph capabilities. A lot of this, so like SoundHub is great, and there's a lot of these kind of similar device on the same sort, but they're not built for rapid 1-second high-resolution meteorological data. They're built to basically put out a big, cast a wide net all over the spectrum, the frequency spectrum, for radiosondes and say, oh, I found one over there and I found one over there. Take the data and then put them into the cloud on the map. Because they're doing multiple sondes and lower resolution, the data might only update every 30 seconds, every 2 minutes, whatever. And that's fine. It's for hobbyists because that like to track these, and that's good. I think that's a great thing. But that's something a little bit different than what we're doing. Trust me, I wish it was as easy as me just downloading and installing that Radiosonde RX software. It's definitely not. I wish it were, because that would have saved me a lot. But stuff like this exists. The reason that I had to build it and we had to build it and develop it and invent it was because nothing existed that would push it live to the cloud like we need it and have all the parameters that we need. The only other way to do it was to have a laptop with either SkySonde, which is really good software, by the way. It doesn't have the ability, it doesn't have the feature. There's nothing wrong with it. It just doesn't have the feature that we need, which is pushing the data to the server. But like, we could run SkySonde, we could run a lot of open source free software on a computer with a software defined radio and receive the signal. It would plot the sounding, and then we could like save it as an image and post it. That's great, but that requires somebody to sit there for 2 hours and then let the data process, which takes God knows how long, and then post it. We don't want to do that. We want you to be able to see it happen live, because I feel like that's where the cool factor of this comes. Like, that's how we get people interested in this. Like, people that don't necessarily understand it and that they don't necessarily want to understand it or care to understand it, but they might still just think it's cool to see the data come in, and that's why that was important to us. Speaking of which, I really, if anybody is watching that works on the SkySonde software, would really encourage you to have the ability to export live JSON data. I would totally dismantle everything we have and run it. It's Windows. It's easy to run. But that's not what that stuff's for, you know. And it's not. These are tools that were built specialized to do certain things. We are the outsider. They are not the problem. We are the problem. Project Weather-Eye is the problem. We want something that nobody does, you know, that wasn't available. Nobody else ever cared to have it before because they didn't need to. Like, we are the problem, not them, if that makes sense. Like, it's definitely not an issue with these software manufacturers or anything by any means. Why are you driving like an idiot? Jesus. I'm booking a hotel now, so I don't forget. I haven't been in a hotel for months. I'm just looking through the comments here. Oh my God, I'm way back in the chat. Damn. Oh hell, I'm way back. I don't even see anything of recent. It's not even working. Whatever, I give up. Anyway, guys, I'm going to end the stream now, and I'll probably go down to, like, Brookhaven. I think that you don't stay in Jackson. No offense if you live in Jackson, Mississippi. No offense. It's just, it's really rough. Anytime I've stayed there, like, it's just, there's always people, like, running around and screaming. Like, it's just, I think what are they, the number 2 murder capital? Let's ask Grok. Literally, they're a murder landmark for the United States. Hey, what's the most murderous city in the United States? Waiting.
Based on the latest data floating around for 2025, St. Louis, Missouri still holds the unfortunate title.
Okay,
for the
what about
highest
Jackson,
murder rate.
Mississippi?
Checking Jackson stats now. Jackson, Mississippi had a big drop in homicides last year, down to 75 in 2025, which is 32% less than 2024 and the lowest since 2017. That's good news, but because of its smaller population, it still ended up with the highest murder rate per capita in the country. Tough spot, but the trend's heading down.
Okay, well, that's nice. So we are, what, 30% less likely to be shot or something now? So that's cool. I stay out of big cities. Like, I will not stay in St. Louis. I'll stay around St. Louis. I won't stay in Chicago. Well, it's too close to home anyway. I won't stay in Indianapolis. I won't stay in Memphis. Never. I won't stay in Nashville. I won't stay in Atlanta. I won't stay in the loop of Dallas and Fort Worth. Like, don't ever go to Pueblo, Colorado. I'm dead serious. Don't ever. Bad. Very bad. But you really, even with Denver, you have to avoid these big population centers. You can go just outside of the population center and be fine. Like if you're in Denver, you could stay in like Littleton, which is just like 5 minutes south of Denver. Like, it's basically part of Denver that's like split off. But you go down to Castle Rock, you have no problems. You go out to Lyman, you have no problems. You go up to Fort Morgan, you have no problems. It's just, you start staying in these big areas and you're really more likely to have not only customer service issues with the hotel, but like legitimate crime issues. And I'm not talking about like getting mugged or something. It's just, you could be pumping gas and somebody might come up and try to like take your wallet or something. It's like, it's just, if you have to pass through there, it's one thing, but I found it's just best to like stay, even if you have to stay in that area, just stay just outside. Like Jackson, like you've got Canton, I think Ridgeland's got a Hampton Inn. That's not bad. You can go about 20 minutes east of Jackson to Brandon. You can go down to Brookhaven, or I don't know if Hazelhurst has hotels, but I know Brookhaven does, or Macomb. Those places are all nice. Like, I just kind of avoid Jackson. I'll probably go down to Brookhaven tonight. I'm about an hour and a half north of Brookhaven, and it's 6 o'clock Central. So I'll probably go down to Brookhaven. That'll be in a good spot for us tomorrow, I think. Yeah, we stay away from Gary. That's for sure. All right, guys, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to, oh yeah, I ended up here now. Have a good rest of your night. I will be back tomorrow, and I'm not exactly sure what time, but I would plan on some sort of a launch occurring. It looks like storms might form sometime around, well, they're probably going to be ongoing in the morning, but I think the main round of storms is probably going to form around 3 or 4 and then start intensifying at like 5 or 6. But these events tend to go early out here. So I don't know, guys. I really don't, but I would imagine we'd probably be able to be up and doing something by 3, maybe even earlier. I think my target right now is like Alexandria, Louisiana to Brookhaven, Mississippi, like along Highway 84, maybe getting into the river delta down there. So I haven't looked too much. I'll look a little bit later, but we'll be in the target area with at maximum 2 hours of a drive tomorrow, maximum. So it won't be a big deal. Made it a long ways today, you know, Madison, Wisconsin, basically, to southern Mississippi. Hell of a drive. It's not a bad drive as long as you start it early, like I did. Otherwise, you're just driving all freaking night. But, like, you know, I'll be down to Brookhaven by 8 o'clock, so that's not bad. But it's because I left at 5 o'clock. You know, if I would have left at 8 or 9 o'clock, you know, it would kind of suck more. But have a good night, guys. I will be back tomorrow.